So we are nearly done with our basic skin correction. However, there is last thing I'd like to show you before we will go to the next part of our high-end retouch. Let me zoom this image at first to show you exactly what I'm talking about. As you can see, sometimes on the skin texture, especially around the eyes over here, especially on the makeup area, it happens we have these really ugly looking pores on the skin. So in this lesson I'm going to show you how to even out the rough skin around the eyes. Let me zoom this even a bit more. So now we can see exactly all of the pores. So what we have to do, we have to make these pores even more visible, a bit more sharpened, just all of the white dots, and then get off of these white dots. So at first I'm going to create a stamp on the top of all of these layers. So Alt, Control or Command, Shift and E to create a stamp. And I'm going to call this Unsharp Mask. The reason why I'm calling this Unsharp Mask is because I'm going to work with Unsharp Mask, and then I'm going to duplicate this layer, so Control or Command J, and I'm going to call this Blur. And I'm calling this not because we're going to work with some of the blur tools, however, I call this like this because we're actually going to get off of the sharpening from the pore area. So I'm going to turn off visibility on this layer and I'm going to work with Unsharp Mask at first. Filter, Sharpen and Unsharp Mask. So let's start with amount. Amount is just amount of our sharpening, so I'm going to keep this at 100% because that's proper size of our sharpen. We want to sharpen this image at 100%. But the real fun is going to start with threshold and radius. At first I'm going to pull all of this down to explain a little bit what's radius, what's threshold, and what it does to our image. So in radius, we're going to set amount of the pixels around which we're going to build the contrast. I'm going to show you how does it looks like, because when we talk, not always we can imagine how does it works. As you can see right now, we just have 0.1 pixels. So we do not build any sharpening around any pixels because the smallest amount on the image is 1 pixel. We don't have 1 pixel over here. However, when we pull this up a little bit, as you can see, our sharpening is start to build. And as you can see, these small dots are very small. They have maybe 2, maybe 3 pixels, I think. So when we get to this point, 2.7, it makes these areas actually sharpen. We don't want to go too high because it's going to sharpen too much. So what I recommend you to get to the point when it's actually picking up the sharpening of the image. So 2.5, it's actually pretty much well. So I'm going to keep this like this. As you can see, when we go up too high, it's going to build the contrast around big areas. So not 1 pixel, but this whole huge area. So that's why we're going to pull this down just to 2.5 pixels. And right now let's go to threshold and what actually threshold does to your image and how threshold actually work. Threshold pick up the difference from the image and build the contrast in the areas where it's actually different. So when threshold is set at 0 levels, it builds a difference everywhere in every pixel. So it sharpens every pixel of the image. We have sharpening everywhere. When we pull up threshold even more than 100, for example, as you can see, it's only build the sharpen in the areas where is big difference. So we have the eyelashes here and skin, but it doesn't build the sharpen in the areas when there is not actually huge difference. So I'm going to pull down the threshold, and we don't want to pull this too high because I'm going to find a place when it's actually softening these white dots. I don't want to soften them, I don't want to get off of them, it has to be visible. So I'm going to find a point where my white dots are still visible, but the other parts around these white pores are not so sharpened anymore. So I think it will be around 11. I still have visible the white pores, but the rest of the skin is untouched actually. So press OK. Let's have a look how it actually changed our image. As you can see, we sharpened this image quite much. So now I'm going to go to the blue layer and then image, apply image, and layer. As a source, I'm going to set unsharp mask, exactly like in frequency separation. Blending, it's going to be subtract, and as you can see, what is happening right now, this layer, when we apply image, it picks up all of the white dots over here, but as you can see, the rest of the skin is actually the same. So that's what we want to get. If it's not right, if you can see some other parts, it means it was too much sharpened. We want to only sharpen the white pores. So I'm going to press OK and change blending mode to linear light. And this layer, unsharp mask, I don't need this anymore. However, I'm going to keep this for now. And I'm going to put these two layers into the group, Control G or Command. I'm going to call this group Makeup. So let's have a look what happens. As you can see, all of the white pores disappear. Actually, I think I did quite huge difference. It didn't have to be so strong like this, but it's not a problem because we can just pull down the opacity on this layer. However, I think I could go up a little bit more with threshold, but it's totally okay. However, of course, we don't want to apply this on whole of our image, so I'm just going to add layer mask, and I'm going to invert this layer mask, Control or Command and I, and we are back to our image. So what we're going to do right now, we have to have selected this layer mask, this inverted layer mask, of course. We have to choose a brush and of course white color, and we have to paint over this area to get off of this rough skin, to get off of these ugly looking pores. Of course, be careful on the eyebrows, because actually it's very good when the eyebrows are sharpened, so we don't want to lose any sharpening from the eyebrows. So I'm just going to carefully paint over this area to get off only these white spots. Be careful on eyelashes as well, so when you can, just zoom in and using small size brush, paint between eyelashes as well. You don't have such a huge work inside there. As you can see, it's quite strong, but it's not a problem. As I said before, we can just simply change opacity later, and to not get too strong effect, of course, I would recommend to pull up a bit more threshold than I did. And right now I'm going to quickly do the same thing on the second eye. So we got really nice and soft skin. Of course, that's an optional thing. Some people don't want to do this. Some people want to have sharpen, but there's always a limit of sharpen of the makeup. When we get these white pores, it's not a good thing. However, when they are like soft and nice, shiny, glossy makeup, it's really good to keep this. I didn't have this kind of nice makeup before. I had too many of these white spots, which doesn't look that great for me. So I decided to remove this. And this works actually not only on makeup, but when you have dry skin somewhere on the cheeks, wherever, it can work really nice with these areas. Everywhere when you have these pores, you can use this method. It works really great. I think even on the lips, this method, when you have too many spots, you can use this method very softly to get off of some not good looking areas. So let's have a look on our eyes right now. I'm going to zoom this a bit more, and that's what was before, and that's how our eyes looks right now. As I said before, I'm going to change opacity for a bit lower, maybe 70% or even less will be okay. But right now it looks quite nice. It doesn't look so strong as before, so I'm really happy about the result. And right now, with finishing the eyes, we finished with the basic skin retouch, with basic corrections on the skins, and now we are ready to move on with our high-end beauty retouch.